Hello, party people. Welcome to the Q&A session of our little concurrent session. And we have two brilliant presenters here. I know everybody really enjoyed what they had to say during the presentation and are itching to get to some questions and stuff. Thanks everybody for joining us. If you have more questions, just drop them into the Q&A. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to try to let them know about those questions as we go along. All right. So why don't we get started with some questions? First of all, say hi, Brian. Say hi, Allison.
Hello, everyone.
Great. I wanted to start with the question that I had, actually, because I have the microphone right now and I can do that. We talked about this kind of gray area between survival mode and future mode, right? And I was curious about, right, in my experience and working with clients, is that nobody's just one thing. So can you be both? And what does that look like in your work?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll get started and say that absolutely you can be both. And I think that's where you saw the gradient at the bottom of that slide, is that people can be in that middle area. And, in some ways they are still trying to make ends meet and trying to, make sure that they have all of those conditions for participation, while they're also building that capacity to participate, and in some ways are able to take more control and do more things without support. And I think, Brian, you might have some more to say about that.
Yeah, when we're talking about the survival mode versus the future mode, it's really helpful that the asset map is broke down into stages, because it goes from destabilized, stabilizing, all the way to the sustainable livelihood. So when you are looking at the asset maps, it really helps you get an idea of where the client might fall and what suggestions you can come up with to get them more into that future mode.
Great, thank you. Now I had the brilliant question set up that how did your program change after you implemented this? But obviously you answered it during this after I came up with the question. So I'm going to start on other people's questions. There are a bunch of related questions. People seem to be really positive and really excited about the asset mapping and how it works within a housing first context and kind of how to do it, I guess. And so we are getting a lot of questions. Is it possible to share any of these tools? Can we get access to these tools? What's your email? Is this available in French? That sort of thing. Can you take a few moments and expand on some of those?
Yes, absolutely. So I did just reply with my email to Kelly there. So you can grab my email and Brian's from the comment and the question. In terms of the tools, we will make available the PDF of our presentation, and we can share all of the tools that we created. Some of the other tools were created by Sustainable Livelihoods Canada. They're generally quite good about working with organizations to help you figure out, how they can support you and get you the tools that you need. And so I can make sure that you get in contact with them as well to get the, original copies of the tools. But the staff reflection tool and the asset map discussion guide are ones that we created. So we will definitely make those available to you as well.
And I'm sorry, I'm going through the questions. Is it available in French?
Oh, sorry, that was a good question. That was a really good question. I don't believe that they are. I know that Sustainable Livelihoods Canada does have partners in Quebec, and they're working with some Francophone organizations, so they may have translated or be in the process of translating, but definitely they would be able to answer that question for you. And they're also very open to organizations using the tools as as it makes sense for them. And so if you had other languages that you wanted to translate them into for the purposes of your organization, I think they would be open to that as well.
We have one question here. I appreciate the strengths-based approach and the focus on resilience. Often, however, these conversations with clients around their individual skills, abilities, and assets can lead clients to feeling they're responsible for their own experiences of homelessness. When using this tool, how do you structure the conversations with clients to acknowledge the structural and systemic factors that led to their homelessness?
So the good thing about this tool is that the conversations we have, they are centered around what the client is reporting. So if they're identifying specifically that they've experienced certain barriers structurally or systemically, that gives us a good opportunity to have them expand on that. If they're not identifying those, say specifically, but we're picking up on those barriers, then we can help them make those connections and set goals on how we're going to overcome them. So, you know, by using the tool, it really gives us that opportunity. And like using the staff reflection sheet, it kind of has prompts for you to use to expand on some of those discussions.
And I think it brings it to light as well. So people, you know, people who may say something that's been a challenge that they've experienced in their life, now it gives some space for them and the person who's supporting them to have a conversation about the fact that, like, you're not the only one who's experienced that. That's really a broken system that's led you to be in that place. And so, you know, while we have to right now work within the system, here's some of the things that the community is also trying to do to, you know, change or fix the system. And so it can have some of those more advocacy-based conversations to let people know that they're not alone. And then that, you know, these situations are, you know, often unjust, unfair, and things that we're all trying to work to improve.
Yeah, that sounds incredibly valuable, both to the experience of the participant and to just being realistic within the context of using these tools. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Do you have any advice? Maybe this is possibly, I think, a question for Brian. Do you have any advice on completing intake or asset maps when language barriers or cultural differences are present?
Yeah, absolutely. I find in my experience with the clients that I serve presently, I don't do an asset map the same way with any of my clients. You know, regardless of what their specific issues might be, I kind of do an asset map differently with everybody. Some clients, you know, when you meet them, they want to share their whole life experience with you. Other clients, you know, you have to try to pry that information out a little more strategically. So I really do kind of individualize every asset map I do. Sometimes I have to do them kind of on my own, just from what they told me. Other times the clients are really eager to kind of fill it out. So it really is just getting to know your client and their comfort levels and what those limits might be around using the tool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it can be flexible, I think. So for whatever way that you're already providing services to people who might have language or literacy barriers. One example, we use this tool with our Adult Protective Service Worker program, which is a program for adults who have developmental disabilities. And so with those groups, often we're talking about one asset at a session, because it's, you know, that's the easiest way to have that conversation, is just to focus on one topic. And if that's what makes the most sense for the person you're supporting, then you can use the tool in that way. So it really is adaptable.
So excuse me, that's very interesting to me, because it sounds like this tool and this approach works best within a context of like a culture of staff empowerment, right? You said during the presentation that the staff let us know when it's time to do this. You let the staff decide the best approach to handling this given the situation in front of them. How did you come to that decision? Is it just natural within your environment?
I would say it's largely natural in our environment. We really operate from a position of trauma-informed care, but it's also part of natural within sustainable livelihoods, is that it's not a prescription. And so when you see the different organizations that Sustainable Livelihoods Canada has worked with, the implementation looks different at each organization. And I can say even within our own programs, it looks different. So we did do a pilot. I think I mentioned we did do a pilot for a couple of months. I saw one question about how long we've been doing this. So we're at about the 2-year mark. It was November 2019 that we started our pilot, and we did that for 2 months. And so we learned, you know, how it could work in the different programs and what considerations we'd have to take under, you know, under consideration, I guess, to be able to make it work effectively in each of the different programs. And yeah, definitely just being as open and fluid as possible is really important to being able to carry out this, and I think all Housing First work.
And I'll just add to that too, the training that we've received regarding like motivational interviewing really goes hand in hand with this as well. That's a really good tool as far as, you know, empowering the client to make their own choices and decisions instead of, you know, kind of telling them what their service needs to be. Motivational interview helps put it back on them to decide and verbalize what they think they need to work on.
Great. Thank you so much. We are coming to the end of our time. We're going to see if we can find a way for our brilliant presenters to try to answer your questions after this. But in the meantime, please complete the session evaluation located under the video player beside the discussion tab. And remember, after this, to go to the day one wrap up. And while doing your evaluations, it's easy to spell. Brian and Allison are amazing. So just put all that stuff in there. All right. Thank you guys very, very much. I appreciate that. Okay. We'll wrap up there. Thanks so much.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thanks.
you, everyone.
Have a great day, everyone.